On a cold Sunday morning, March 22, 1959, 8 adventurous cavers gathered at the entrance of Peak Cavern, a renowned cave system near Castleton in Derbyshire, England. Among them was Oscar Hackett Neal, a 20-year-old philosophy student from Balliol College, Oxford. Neal's heart raced with excitement as he prepared to dive into the depths of the cave. He was an enthusiastic explorer with a deep passion for uncovering the secrets hidden underground. Accompanying Neal were members of the British Speleological Association, seasoned cavers who shared his excitement for the upcoming adventure. Their mission was to explore a passage located about half a mile from the cave's entrance and investigate a fissure discovered in a side chamber 2 weeks earlier. This would be no easy task. The journey would take them roughly 1,000 feet below ground through a complex labyrinth of narrow, winding passages. Entering the cave, the cavers immediately faced their first challenge, the notorious Mucky Duck section. This was a tight, wet tunnel that often filled with water after rainfall, making it a tough squeeze even for experienced cavers. Despite the difficulties, the group pushed forward, navigating through the narrow passage with determination. Beyond the Mucky Duck lay the Boulder Passage, which was somewhat easier, but still demanded careful negotiation around various obstacles. About 150 meters into the passage, the group encountered a 3-meter climb on the north wall of the upper gallery. This route ended with a tricky bend and a muddy sump above the eye hole, barely large enough for a person to pass through. Beyond this point, the passage led to the Stalagmite Chamber, now known as Moss Chamber, one of the most beautifully decorated chambers in the cave. Neal was thrilled to see the chamber and explore the mysterious tight shaft discovered earlier. After over an hour of intense crawling, elbowing, and climbing, the team reached their destination. Despite their exhaustion, they marveled at the natural beauty surrounding them. The fissure in the ground was large enough for an average person to pass through, measuring about 1 meter by 70 centimeters. Neal's curiosity was piqued as he wondered what lay beyond the passage. No one had fully explored the shaft, but they estimated its depth was around 40 feet. The shaft descended slightly off vertical for 12 feet, followed by a challenging corkscrew twist leading to a 10-foot inclined plane, and then a further vertical 18-foot drop. At around 3:30 p.m., the group lowered a flexible-sided ladder designed for accessing confined spaces. Neal began his descent into the unknown, maneuvering and sliding down. He wasn't secured with a safety rope, as they believed the narrowness of the fissure would prevent him from falling. Shortly after starting his descent, he encountered an incredibly tight corkscrew compression. Despite the challenge, he navigated through it, feeling a sense of accomplishment. However, he wasn't aware of the difficulties ahead. Throughout his descent, Neal maintained constant communication with the team, assuring them that everything was going as planned. After successfully passing through the corkscrew twist, he continued his descent but soon felt irregularities with his footing. Initially, he thought he could maneuver around them as he had in the corkscrew section. After some time, he realized that a boulder was blocking his path. Understanding he couldn't dislodge the boulder or maneuver within the confined space, he decided to climb back up. Unfortunately, Neal found himself unable to lift his feet sufficiently to ascend the ladder. He became wedged in an elliptical crevice only 18 inches wide, unable to move in either direction. Despite their efforts to lift Neal by pulling on the ladder, it became jammed between the cave surface and Neal's body. Situations like these are not uncommon in caving, and initially Neal's companions thought the rescue would be straightforward. However, several attempts to haul him up with ropes failed, with each rope snapping or shearing on the rock edge. This likely caused Neal to panic, and as he tried to climb upward, he became firmly stuck just below the corkscrew, unable to bend his legs to grip the ladder or flex his elbows to ascend further. He found himself in a dire situation. Recognizing the urgency, some cavers went to seek additional help. Within hours, volunteers from across England arrived at Peak Tavern, determined to free the trapped Neal.
Hundreds of volunteers, along with assistance from the Royal Air Force, police, and even the Navy, joined the rescue efforts. Just a few hours after Neil became trapped, the rescuers encountered another unforeseen problem. By this time, the atmosphere in the shaft had become severely polluted, with Neil's body cutting off the airflow. His disorientation became evident, and his behavior grew increasingly irrational. Experienced cavers were sent down the shaft to reach Neil, but one by one, they were forced back by the toxic air. 3 volunteers lost consciousness while attempting the descent. Finally, the 4th volunteer, Ron Peters, managed to secure a rope around Neil's chest. Upon starting to pull, they realized that this only worsened his breathing difficulties. News of Neil's predicament spread rapidly through nearby villages. Seasoned cavers known for their bravery and resourcefulness hurried to Peak Tavern with ropes, oxygen masks, and makeshift stretchers. They were determined to navigate the perilous shaft, but the descent was grueling. The narrow passage, scarcely wider than a shoulder, twisted and turned, triggering feelings of claustrophobia. The air, tainted with Neil's exhalations, assaulted their lungs and clouded their vision. One by one, they emerged defeated, gasping for fresh air, their eyes red and stinging. The Royal Air Force airlifted oxygen cylinders and specialized equipment to the scene. When a delivery of oxygen tanks arrived at 12:30 a.m., there was hope that it would revive Neil and facilitate his rescue. Although the air quality marginally improved, it remained insufficient. It was decided to continue pumping oxygen throughout the night, with plans to send in a nimble, experienced caver capable of navigating the narrow shaft first thing in the morning. By early Monday afternoon, nearly 24 hours since Neil had entered the cave, his labored breathing could still be heard. Despite the desperate situation, the team remained determined to persevere. Compressed air cylinders were used to try to clear the foul air from the shaft. The walls, ladder, and rope were coated in mud, obscuring Neil's location.
Meanwhile, incessant rain threatened to flood the Mucky Ducks area of Peak Tavern. As a precaution, it was advised to withdraw for everyone's safety. Once the rain eased, accompanied by an RAF doctor who had joined the rescue effort, they returned to the head of the shaft where they had last heard Neil breathing, but this time there was no sound. Neil Moss was declared dead on Tuesday, March 24, 1959. Dr. Hugh Kidd described the experience as the first and only time he had declared death without actually seeing the patient. Throughout the ordeal, Neil's father, Eric Moss, waited at the tunnel entrance. He requested that his son's body be left in place to prevent anyone else from risking their lives. Contrary to popular belief, the lower part of the shaft was sealed with loose rocks collected from the chamber floor, not with concrete as often reported. The once well-decorated chamber that housed the tiny shaft eventually became Neil Moss's final resting place. Today, the stalagmite chamber is named Moss Chamber in memory of the courageous young caver who tragically lost his life. On the evening of November 24, 2009, John Jones and his younger brother Josh set out on what they anticipated to be an exhilarating adventure at the Nutty Putty Cave in Utah County, Utah. This cave, a popular destination for both tourists and seasoned spelunkers, boasted a variety of well-known spots, such as the Big Room, the Maze, and the Big Slide. Despite the allure of these famous sections, John and Josh were drawn to the more challenging and less explored areas of the cave. Having bid farewell to John's wife Emily, who was pregnant with their second child, and their young daughter Lizzie, the brothers, along with 9 friends and acquaintances, made their way to the cave's entrance. Though none of them had ventured into this particular cave before, they were equipped with a map and shared stories from others who had. John, a medical student at the University of Virginia, had not been caving recently due to his busy schedule, but considered himself experienced. He and Josh had spent much of their youth exploring various caves in Utah.
Nutty Putty Cave has only one entrance, measuring a mere 1.8 meters across. This meant that any passage navigated must be backtracked to exit. This structure necessitated careful planning and a good understanding of the cave's layout. Inexperienced cavers could easily become disoriented and trapped in the labyrinthine passages.
The group entered the cave with high spirits. The initial areas they explored were spacious and accommodating. However, John and Josh, along with two friends, soon decided to seek out the more notorious parts of the cave, specifically the birth canal and the aorta crawl. These sections were infamous for their narrow and claustrophobic passages, which had trapped many cavers before. Despite these warnings, John's confidence and determination led the group onward. After navigating the big slide, a 45-degree descent into a larger room, the brothers and their friends split up to explore different paths. John and Josh chose a passage they believed led to the birth canal. However, John inadvertently took a wrong turn, leading them into an unfamiliar section known as Ed's Push. This passage was poorly documented and known for its complexity and dangerous narrowness. Ed's Push was a roller coaster of tight squeezes, twists, and turns, requiring cavers to maneuver their bodies in challenging ways. John, unaware of the exact path he was in, pressed forward, believing he was still on the right track. His journey led him to the Corkscrew, a perilous and notoriously tight area. 5 years earlier, a 16-year-old named Brock Clark got stuck in the same corkscrew section at 5'7" and 140 pounds. He became wedged when he tried to turn around, and rescuers took 14 hours to free him. John now found himself in the exact spot where Brock had been trapped. Attempting to turn around at 6 feet tall and 200 pounds, John knew that turning around here was impossible. He was in a 12-inch high space with no room to maneuver his body. John decided to push forward to a ledge area, squeezing over the top of it. The space was tight, but he believed he could see it open up ahead. He sucked in his stomach and pulled himself forward on the rocks, moving head first downwards, hoping there was an area ahead where he could turn around. Unbeknownst to John, no one had ever crossed this ledge before, and he was in uncharted territory. Despite the tight and uncomfortable position, John remained calm, convinced there was an opening ahead. He thought he was still in the birth canal, a part of the cave where many cavers had felt stuck but eventually found their way through. After passing through a tight zone, he began to slide toward the bottom of the tunnel, nearly doing a handstand as he tried to hold himself up and figure out how to push backward. He couldn't turn, and now was upside down, with gravity pulling his 200-pound body against his weakening arms. John yelled out to his brother Josh, telling him not to follow, but to go back out. They discussed his options and decided that moving forward to find a spot to turn around was the best idea. John was collapsing onto his shoulders and head and needed to make a move to get out of the vertical position. His headlamp showed a hole in the floor ahead that might lead to a larger space, giving him a bit of hope. Exactly how John ended up in this tunnel hole remains a mystery. He might have slipped, hit his head, and become wedged in the tight space. Another possibility is that he misjudged the hole, thinking it was an opening rather than a dead-end fissure. Regardless, John found himself in a small, impossibly narrow opening at the bottom of the tunnel, only 18 inches by 10 inches, nearly upside down at a 70-degree angle. John tried to push himself back up, but it was exhausting. His arms were in useless positions, one folded under his chest and the other trapped by his side. He strained against the walls, quickly realizing that all his efforts couldn't move him back up the 5 feet to the shallow tunnel. While his calves and feet were still free up in the passage, his legs were now wedged in the narrowest part of the hole, only 8 inches wide. He started yelling for Josh again. Knowing that John was trying to turn around, his brother recognized that his yells were not a good sign. Josh quickly made his way to his brother. Josh found John in a dire situation, trapped nearly upside down at a 70-degree angle.
John's position was not only uncomfortable, but life-threatening, as being upside down for extended periods can lead to severe physical complications. Josh tried to pull John free, but his efforts were futile. Recognizing the severity of the situation, Josh made the difficult decision to leave John and seek professional help. Meanwhile, friends and family members gathered near John to offer comfort and support. Time was of the essence as John's condition worsened with each passing minute. For several hours, John remained trapped upside down, concentrating on the arduous task of breathing. The fissure compressed his chest, permitting only shallow breaths. Every attempt he made to move upward only caused him to settle deeper into the crevice. As time passed, gravity relentlessly pulled him against the rough walls of the tunnel, tightening its hold on his exhausted body. After the rescue team arrived, the first rescuer to arrive was Susie Mola, who had experience with the cave's tricky passages. She tied a rope around her ankle as a precaution and navigated her way to John. Despite her best efforts, the rope experienced too much friction due to the passage's complexity, making it impossible to pull John out. Susie realized a more advanced pulley system would be necessary. As more rescuers arrived, a team of 20 worked tirelessly to devise a plan. They faced numerous challenges, including the cave's distance from the entrance, the narrow corkscrew passage, and the hard limestone that made it installing hooks for the pulley system difficult. Additionally, John's position in the cave made it nearly impossible to use conventional rescue techniques. Throughout the night, rescuers communicated with John to keep his spirits up. John, a devout Christian, found solace in prayer during this harrowing ordeal. However, his physical condition continued to deteriorate. The human body is not designed to be upside down for long periods, and John's organs began to suffer from the unnatural position. As the pulley system was finally prepared, rescuers made one last attempt to free John. 8 people worked together to pull him out, but John's legs, which had become completely numb and blue from lack of circulation, hit the ceiling of the passage. The pain was excruciating, and John's condition worsened rapidly. In a final effort, rescuers considered breaking John's legs to facilitate the pull, but medical experts warned that this could lead to shock and cardiac arrest. Despite their best efforts, John remained trapped. At 11:56 p.m. on November 25th, after 27 hours upside down, John Jones was pronounced dead. His body had succumbed to the physical stresses of his position. The tragic death of John Jones led to significant changes regarding the Nutty Putty Cave. Officials sealed Ed's push entrance and later closed the entire cave system with concrete, ensuring no one else would suffer the same fate. A plaque was placed to commemorate John's memory, marking the spot where his adventurous spirit and love of caving met a tragic end. This incident serves as a stark reminder of the dangers of caving and the importance of thorough preparation and caution. John Jones is a testament to the bravery and determination of both the cavers who explore these underground worlds and the rescuers who risk their lives to save them. The Nutty Putty Cave, once a site of exploration and adventure, now stands as a somber monument to John Jones and the ultimate sacrifice he made in pursuit of his passion.
Michael and Paul Hayden's childhood was full of thrilling adventures, mostly centered around a special cave in Coss Canyon. This cave wasn't just any old hole in the ground for the Hayden kids. It was a world of fun and mystery. During hot California summers, it became their cool hideout. With 6 children in the family, they often needed a place to escape the heat, and this cave was perfect. The Hayden siblings would hike to the cave, excited to jump into the chilly waters inside. For them, the cave wasn't just rocks and water. It was a place where they made memories and let their imaginations soar. From the outside, the cave didn't look like much. The entrance was a small, dark opening near Lenta, California. It measured about 3 feet by 4 feet, hiding the vast world inside. To enter the cave, the Haydens had to crawl through a narrow 50-foot tunnel before reaching a slope that took them 30 feet deeper. Despite the tight entrance, the journey was worth it.
Just 150 feet in, they would reach the flooded pool area, perfect for swimming and exploring dry ledges and holes. The cave's layout, with its deep water pools and connected tunnels, offered endless chances for adventure. As they got older, the Hayden brothers became more skilled and brave in their cave exploring. They had spent many hours swimming through the flooded parts of the cave, always trying to go a bit further. Their curiosity never stopped. They knew there was more to find beyond the paths they knew as kids. By the time they were adults, they wanted to explore even deeper into the cave. Paul especially had gained the skills for such daring cave exploring. After nearly 15 years as an Air Force pararescue instructor, he had become an excellent scuba diver. His job in the elite pararescue team required him to be ready for anything, and his careful planning and skills had made him well respected. On September 17, 2000, they decided to take on their biggest challenge yet. Paul wanted to check out some of the deeper, unknown parts of the cave. They hiked up to the entrance, carrying their scuba gear. At the pool area, Paul got ready for his dive. He attached his GoPro camera for light and made sure he had enough air for 2 hours underwater. Michael, always careful, chose to stay in the main cave. He would keep an eye on Paul's progress and watch the time. Even though they knew the cave well, it still felt mysterious and a bit scary. To stay in touch during the dive, the brothers had a simple but clever plan. They tied a rope to a rock in the main cave. Michael would tug the rope twice to check on Paul, and Paul would tug back to say he was okay. This way, they could talk even when they couldn't see each other. It made them feel safer in the dangerous cave. At first, everything seemed fine. Michael let out more rope as Paul went deeper into the cave. Paul kept tugging back, showing he was all right. But after about 20 minutes, something went wrong. Michael tugged the rope, but Paul didn't answer. He tried again, but the rope was stuck tight. Michael started to panic. He pulled as hard as he could, but the rope wouldn't move. He realized Paul might be in trouble, maybe stuck somewhere with only 90 minutes of air left.
Michael knew he had to act fast. He left the cave and ran to get help, every second feeling like it lasted forever. Michael burst into the Santa Clarita Sheriff's office, his voice shaking as he told them what happened. The Sheriff's Department knew it was serious and acted quickly. They called the LA County Sheriff's Department and the Montrose Search and Rescue Team. Using special vehicles, they raced across the rocky valley to the cave. They were all ready to do whatever it took to save Paul. When they got to the cave, they jumped into the water right away. They hoped they could still find Paul alive. The rescue team worked fast, knowing every minute counted. They searched the underwater tunnels, looking for any sign of Paul. The cave story that had started as an exciting adventure had turned into a tense rescue operation, with Paul's life hanging in the balance. Paul was excited to check out new parts of the cave he hadn't seen before. The cave wasn't just a natural hole, it was part of an old water well system from 1915. Over time, the cave had changed due to water erosion and man-made tunnels for getting water. This history made the cave more interesting, but also more dangerous. The old well shafts built to get water were now filled with dirt and rocks, making the place even more dangerous. As Paul swam through the front caves and tunnels, he got to one of the narrow well shafts. It was only 3 feet wide, barely enough room for Paul and his scuba gear. Using his camera light, Paul saw an air pocket at the top of the shaft, a shiny spot that showed there was air to breathe above. Even though Paul was good at scuba diving, he didn't know much about cave diving, which is much harder and riskier. His family said Paul usually used a lighter to check if the air was safe before taking out his breathing tube. But this time, he didn't do this important check, a big mistake that ended badly. Paul's GoPro recorded him coming up into the air pocket. The camera's light showed the shaft's walls as Paul took out his breathing tube to take a breath. But right away, something went very wrong. The video showed Paul going back under the water, not trying to put his breathing tube back in. He went limp and sank to the bottom of the shaft, not moving. Above, Michael waited nervously, not knowing his brother had already died in the dangerous cave. When Michael realized what happened, it hit him hard. Paul was gone, and there was nothing he could do to change it. The big question was, how could one breath of air be so deadly? The answer is in the air Paul breathed in. Usually, carbon dioxide is only 0.4% of the air we breathe, but in small spaces like caves, where gases from rotting stuff and water erosion build up, the amount of carbon dioxide can be really high. If the air in a closed space has more than 10% carbon dioxide, it can make you pass out right away. This happens because of carbon dioxide poisoning, which is fast and often deadly. Normally, we breathe out carbon dioxide from our blood, but when there's way more CO2 in the air than in our blood, it goes the other way. This makes our blood get acidic really fast, causing a dangerous condition called respiratory acidosis. This all happens so quickly that the person can't do anything about it. In a factory, someone breathing in that much carbon dioxide might be saved and given oxygen, but underwater, it's much worse. When Paul passed out, his full air tank was useless. He just fell into the water, sinking to the bottom of the shaft. The sad part was that the skills and gear that had saved others before couldn't help Paul now. Michael, pulling hard on the rope that didn't move, had to face the heartbreaking truth that his brother was gone. This sad event shows how dangerous cave diving can be, even for people who are good at other kinds of diving. Paul Hayden wasn't just a great diver, he was a hero who'd spent his life saving others. But cave diving is risky and needs special training and a deep understanding of the unique challenges in caves. The Waianapanapana Caves in Hawaii are one of the coolest places to swim in the world. Every year, tons of tourists come to these calm waters, amazed by how beautiful and untouched they are. They're looking for an awesome adventure, but many don't know about the sad things that have happened in these caves. People love the caves because they're away from busy tourist spots and have lots of amazing natural sights. They're a hidden treasure for those who want to explore more of the island. The Waianapanapana Caves, tucked in this perfect setting, have warm, shallow waters surrounded by cool rock shapes. These quiet pools are great for relaxing and taking in the sights, but for the daring, they're an exciting challenge. The bravest visitors dive into the caves, eager to check out the underground passages and find hidden secrets. One of these brave explorers was Gregory Wilhelm, a 33-year-old outdoor lover from Novato, California. Gregory had loved nature since he was a kid. He spent loads of time hiking, camping, and going on road trips, always looking for new places to explore. His love for the outdoors grew even more during his time in Boy Scouts and summer camp programs. There, he learned to really appreciate nature and made great friends along the way. On January 29, 2017, a sunny Sunday afternoon, Gregory was in Hana, Maui, with 3 of his buddies. They'd been swimming and chilling in Waianapanapa State Park, enjoying the beautiful surroundings. Later that day, they decided to kick it up a notch and explore the nearby caves. We're not sure if they planned this or just decided on the spot, but they didn't have proper diving gear. This suggests they might not have fully understood how risky it could be.
Like many others before them, the group jumped into the cool water near the cave entrance. They enjoyed the refreshing dip while keeping an eye on the light coming in from above. The calm water and beautiful surroundings made it easy to forget about possible dangers below. The caves look inviting, but they're known for being confusing with twisty passages and water levels that can change quickly. But the thrill of exploring often beats caution, and Gregory, driven by his adventurous spirit, decided to swim deeper into the cave. Gregory and his buddy went deeper into the cave, leaving the 2 girls at the entrance. They only had a phone light in a plastic bag to see. This showed they weren't really ready for what was ahead, but that they were excited to explore, so they kept going into the unknown. As they went further, the water got higher, up to their waists. They came to a big rock blocking the way. Under it was a deep spot where experienced divers like to go. Gregory and his friend didn't have diving gear, but they decided to take a quick dive anyway. They planned to come up after a minute, but they quickly saw the water was much deeper than they thought, and it was super dark all around. Even though things looked scary, Gregory's curiosity won. He really wanted to see what was ahead. He always loved adventure. His friend got scared and swam back to safety. Gregory had gone too far into the cave, not knowing his friend had left. The darkness that seemed cool at first turned into a confusing maze. Gregory was now alone and in trouble. When Gregory finally knew he needed air, he got really scared. He couldn't tell which way was up in the pitch-black water. He started to panic as he looked for a way out. He was breathing faster and harder, trying to find the surface. In his crazy search, he found a small air pocket. It was a short break where he could breathe and think. This spot, usually underwater, gave him a moment to rest, but he knew he couldn't stay long. Back at the cave entrance, Gregory's friends were getting worried. The two girls felt something was wrong. They decided to look deeper in the cave. When they found Gregory's friend, he was freaking out and confused. He couldn't understand how Gregory had disappeared so fast in the water.
Gregory's friend made a brave but scary choice. He decided to go back into the cave alone to find Gregory. He dove into the dark water again and again, hoping to find his friend. On his third try, he saw a small light far away in the black water. He swam as hard as he could towards it, his heart beating fast. As he got closer, the light got brighter. It was Gregory's phone light, still on in the plastic bag. But Gregory wasn't there. His friend felt awful. He had tried so hard but found nothing. Worried about his own safety, he quickly swam back to the cave entrance. The two women were waiting there. They grabbed the phone and ran out of the cave to call for help. The Hana Fire Department came fast. They called a rescue team to help look for Gregory. But finding him wasn't going to be easy. The Wananapanapa Caves are known for changing water levels and being super dark. Even good divers can get lost in there. Gregory was brave and strong, but the cave was too much for him that day. The rescue teams looked everywhere in the cave, hoping Gregory was still alive. Sadly, they couldn't find him in time. After searching for what felt like forever, they found his body deep in the cave, 75 feet down. Reports suggest Gregory got lost in a tight space full of rock and water. He couldn't tell which way to swim, making him panic with each try. He kept diving back and forth, but couldn't find a way out. Even for a smart guy who swam well, this was a tough spot. After what felt like forever, searching wildly, he saw a glimmer of hope, a passage ahead. But Greg's luck ran out. He picked the wrong path, making things worse. He tried to go back, but it was too late. Time was up, and he couldn't break free. Despite his brave efforts, he couldn't escape, and the darkness below swallowed him. When the rescue team found his body later, they saw that he had floated 75 feet deep into the cave. What happened that day shows how dangerous even beautiful places can be. Gregory Wilhelm's life ended too soon because of curiosity, bravery, and the dangerous nature of the Wananapanapa Caves. His story reminds us how risky it can be to explore unknown places. It's a warning for anyone who might want to do something similar.
Nestled within the picturesque Adirondack Hills, about 10 miles east of Ithaca, New York, lies a mysterious and alluring cavern known as Schroeder's Pants Cave. This intriguing name has piqued the curiosity of adventurers and spelunkers for decades, drawing them into its depths to uncover the secrets hidden beneath the Earth's surface. The story of Schroeder's Pants Cave began in 1947 when two intrepid explorers, Herbert Schroeder and his close friend George Lai, stumbled upon its entrance during one of their routine hikes. As the tale goes, while maneuvering through a particularly narrow passageway, Herbert's pants caught on a jagged rock and tore dramatically. Amused by the incident and eager to immortalize the moment, George jokingly dubbed the cavern Schroeder's Pants Cave, a name that has endured ever since. By 1948, news of this newfound subterranean wonder had spread, and the cave was officially open to the public. Enthusiasts flocked to experience its winding passages and hidden chambers, making it one of New York State's most popular spelunking destinations. The cave's intricate network of tunnels, with evocative names like the Lemon Squeeze, Gun Barrel, and Z-Turn, offered challenges and breathtaking beauty to those brave enough to explore them. However,
Beneath its enchanting facade, Schroeder's Pants Cave held dangers that would forever alter its history. On a crisp Saturday morning, February 13, 1965, a 23-year-old scientist and avid spelunker named James Mitchell arrived in the small town of Doyleville, accompanied by his friends Heidi Miller and Charles Bennett. The trio, filled with anticipation and excitement, planned to spend the day delving into the depths of Schroeder's Pants Cave, eager to chart new territories and revel in the cave's natural splendor. Before embarking on their expedition, they intended to meet George Line to discuss the day's plans and gather recent updates about the cave's conditions. Unfortunately, George was away, and the trio proceeded without crucial information about the recent thaw that had caused icy meltwater to surge through the cave's passages. Undeterred, James, Heidi, and Charles entered the cave, navigating through its dark and narrow corridors with practiced ease. They squeezed through the tight confines of the lemon squeeze, carefully edged along the gun barrel, and twisted through the Z-turn, eventually arriving at a spacious central chamber that echoed with the distant sound of rushing water. In the heart of this chamber lay a formidable challenge, a vertical shaft plunging 80 feet into the darkness below, with a small but relentless stream cascading down its length. The water, freshly melted from winter's grip, was bone-chillingly cold, adding an extra layer of peril to the descent. Eager to explore further, James volunteered to rappel down the shaft, while Heidi and Charles remained above to manage the safety lines. Equipped with a sturdy harness, a reliable footstrap, and a determined spirit, James began his descent into the abyss, the sound of water growing louder as he ventured deeper.
Midway down, disaster struck. James's rope became entangled around a protruding rock, halting his progress and pinning one of his arms against the cold, wet wall of the shaft. The relentless stream of icy water battered him from above, rapidly sapping his body heat and strength. Despite his efforts to free himself, the combination of numbing cold and the rope's tension rendered him immobile. Sensing the gravity of the situation, Heidi and Charles sprang into action. They pulled with all their might, but the slippery, wet ropes in James's compromised position made it an arduous task. All the while, James remained remarkably calm, shouting up words of encouragement and insisting he would find a way out. Minutes stretched into an agonizing 45, and as James's responses grew weaker, Charles made the critical decision to seek help. He scrambled out of the cave and raced to a nearby farm, frantically searching for assistance. Due to the remote location and lack of immediate rescue services, it took precious hours before a specialized cave rescue team from Washington, D.C. could be dispatched, flying in on a military aircraft to aid in the operation. By the time the rescue team arrived and navigated the treacherous passages to reach James, it was too late. The unforgiving cold and relentless water had claimed his life, casting a somber shadow over the once enthusiastic expedition. Retrieving James's body proved to be an immense challenge. The narrow confines of the shaft, coupled with the continuous flow of water and unstable walls, made extraction dangerous for the rescuers themselves. After several days of exhaustive and risky efforts, the decision was made to seal the shaft, leaving James to rest within the depths he so passionately sought to explore. A memorial stone was later placed at the cave's entrance, honoring his adventurous spirit and tragic end. The incident sent shockwaves through the caving community, highlighting the inherent dangers of spelunking and the critical importance of proper preparation and safety measures. Discussions arose about the need for trained rescue teams to be readily available near popular caving sites, and for explorers to be better equipped to handle unexpected hazards such as sudden floods and hypothermia. Decades later, in a poignant turn of events, George Lyon's grandson, Chris, took it upon himself to bring closure to the lingering sorrow surrounding Schroeder's Pants Cave. With the blessing of James Mitchell's family and the support of a dedicated team of experienced cavers, Christian organized a mission in 2006 to recover James's remains and provide a proper farewell. The expedition was meticulously planned, utilizing advanced equipment and techniques that had evolved since the 1960s. After hours of careful navigation and excavation, the team successfully retrieved James's remains, allowing his family and friends to finally lay him to rest with dignity and peace. Today, Schroeder's Pants Cave stands as both a testament to nature's breathtaking beauty and a solemn reminder of the risks that come with exploring its hidden wonders. The cave continues to attract adventurers, now equipped with enhanced knowledge and respect for the subterranean world. James Mitchell's legacy lives on, inspiring a generation of explorers to pursue their passions with courage, preparedness, and a profound appreciation for the mysteries that lie beneath our feet.
10 students from the University of Florida set off for a thrilling caving expedition in Ellison's Cave, Georgia. What started as an adventure quickly turned into a harrowing struggle for survival. Let's dive into the story of Grant Lenbach and his best friend Michael as they face the icy depths and relentless dangers of one of America's deepest caves. On February 12, 2011, with winter still gripping the land with an icy chill, 10 students from the University of Florida embarked on what they believed would be an exhilarating caving expedition. The group, composed of 5 boys and 5 girls, was led by 20-year-old Grant Lenbach, who was eagerly anticipating his upcoming birthday. Among the group was Michael, Grant's close friend and fellow adventurer. The two shared a bond forged through their academic pursuits, Christian faith, and love for thrilling activities such as rock climbing, skydiving, wake surfing, and caving. Their destination was Ellison's Cave, located in Walker County on Pigeon Mountain, Georgia, known for its depth and challenging terrain. Ellison's Cave is the 12th deepest cave in the United States and features the fantastic pit, the deepest unobstructed pit in the country, nearly twice as tall as the Statue of Liberty. The students were undeterred by the cave's reputation, confident in their skills and excited for another adventure. The group departed on February 11th, traveling over 400 miles to reach Georgia. They arrived in the afternoon and checked into a hotel near the wildlife management area where Pigeon Mountain is located. Excitement buzzed in the air as they prepared for the next day's expedition, discussing their plans and double-checking their gear. On the morning of February 12th, the students dressed in casual clothing, packed their caving equipment, and left their phones behind, believing they wouldn't need them. They underestimated the severity of the cold and the potential dangers they might face. As they ascended the mountain, the temperature continued to drop, but their excitement kept them moving forward. Grant and Michael, seasoned adventurers, reassured their friends that everything would be fine. After nearly an hour of hiking, they reached one of the cave's narrow entrances. The opening was small and jagged, allowing only one person to pass through at a time. Despite its intimidating appearance, the darkness beyond beckoned to them, promising the thrill of exploration. One by one, they squeezed through the entrance. Their headlamps cutting through the darkness inside revealed an otherworldly beauty. Stalactites and stalagmites adorned the cavern, and the walls sparkled with mineral deposits. However, the biting cold was a constant reminder of the cave's harsh conditions. In summer, the cave's temperature hovers around 56 degrees Fahrenheit, but in winter, it felt like an icy tomb. The group decided to limit their exploration to a small section of the cave to avoid the worst of the cold. Their plans were abruptly disrupted when one student's backpack slipped and fell into the warm-up pit, a vertical drop of 125 feet. Although not as deep as the fantastic pit, it was still a significant and dangerous descent, especially given the freezing conditions exacerbated by a nearby waterfall. The backpack contained vital supplies, and the group felt retrieving it was necessary. Grant, as the leader, volunteered to go after the backpack. His friends urged him to reconsider, sensing the potential danger, but he insisted he would be fine. Determined, he began his descent into the abyss, using a rope to lower himself into the abyss.
As Grant descended, the cold grew increasingly intense. His shivering became more pronounced, but he pressed on, encouraged by the voices of his friends above. The sound of the waterfall grew louder, a constant reminder of the treacherous conditions. Halfway down, he encountered the full force of the waterfall, which drenched him in icy water. The shock of the freezing water caused him to lose control, and his harness and rope malfunctioned, leaving him entangled and unable to move. Panic set in as Grant struggled to free himself. His screams for help were drowned out by the roar of the waterfall, but his friends heard his faint cries and called back, urging him to stay calm. Michael, without hesitation, strapped himself to the same rope and began his descent to rescue Grant. Michael reached Grant, who was by now nearly incapacitated by the cold. He was shivering uncontrollably, his movements slow and his words incoherent. Michael tried to free Grant, but he too became entangled and was soaked by the freezing water. Both were now trapped, unable to move up or down the rope. Above, the rest of the group was frantic. Some stayed to provide encouragement, while others hurried out of the cave to seek help. They retrieved their phones and contacted the authorities at 2:19 p.m., explaining the dire situation in the cave. The rescue team arrived swiftly, treating the remaining students for hypothermia before descending into the pit. The students who had stayed behind described the exact location and conditions within the cave, emphasizing the urgency. The rescue operation was complex and fraught with challenges. The team, equipped with advanced gear and experienced in cave rescues, descended into the pit with determination. The environment inside the cave was hostile, with temperatures continuing to drop, and the waterfalls were making communication difficult. Despite these obstacles, the rescuers moved methodically, prioritizing safety while working as swiftly as possible. By 3:30 p.m., as the rescuers reached Michael and Grant, they found the two friends entangled in a grim embrace of survival. The scene was haunting. The icy water had taken its toll, and both boys were unresponsive. The rescuers checked for pulses but found none, a confirmation of the worst fears held by those above. The extraction process was painstaking. Untangling the ropes and carefully lifting the boys without causing further entanglements required precision and strength. The rescuers worked tirelessly, their breath visible in the frigid air as the hours wore on. When they finally emerged from the pit, carrying the lifeless bodies of Michael and Grant, the scene above erupted in grief. Friends collapsed in tears, their sobs echoing off the cave walls. In the aftermath, the surviving students were treated for hypothermia and shock. Counselors and university officials arrived to provide support, but the emotional wounds were deep. The loss of Grant and Michael left a void that would be felt long after the immediate horror had faded.
Abbey Caves in northern New Zealand offers a unique adventure for those seeking an unspoiled natural experience. These caves remain untouched by human modifications, and there are no guides to lead the way. You're truly on your own. The journey through Abbey Caves follows a circular path that spans about 4,265 feet, featuring 3 main caves: Organ Cave, Middle Cave, and Ivy Cave. Along the way, signs will help you find your way, but it's important to remember that you're navigating at your own risk. Organ Cave requires a bit of a climb to reach the cave floor. The entrance is a tight squeeze between a rock and the cave wall. The cave itself is about 984 feet long, with impressive striped walls in a round chamber that's home to glowworms. Ivy Cave, located near a stream, is the last stop. It's a bit tricky to access, requiring you to navigate down a slippery stone slope and crouch through narrow passages. This cave is about 656 feet long and consists of 2 main sections. Middle Cave is the easiest to access, with a wide entrance and a flat, ankle-deep water path. However, safety is paramount when exploring these caves. The underground environment can be unpredictable, with risks like sudden water rises and falling rocks, particularly at the entrance to Organ Cave. On May 9, 2023, the students of Whangarei Boys High School in northern New Zealand were filled with anticipation. It was not an ordinary school day. 15 students and 2 teachers were about to embark on an outdoor education trip to Abbey Caves Reserve. Among them was 15-year-old Karen P., a bright student eager to explore the wonders of the caves. The trip was supposed to be a day of adventure and learning, but it would soon turn into a tragic event that would deeply affect the entire community.
The day started like any other, with the students gathering at the school early in the morning. They were all excited, chatting about the day ahead and what they might discover in the caves. The teachers briefed the students on the activities planned for the day, which included exploring the caves and learning about the unique geological formations within them. Abbey Caves, located near Whangarei, is a popular destination for school trips and outdoor activities. The caves are known for their impressive rock formations, underground streams, and the challenge they present to explorers. However, on that same morning, around 9 a.m., the National Broadcasting Service issued a weather warning. Meteorologists predicted heavy rain in the region, which could lead to rapidly rising streams and rivers. Abbey Caves in particular was flagged as a high-risk area for flash floods. Despite these warnings, the decision was made to proceed with the trip. The school's outdoor education program was an important part of the curriculum, and the teachers believed that the experience would be valuable for the students. The group arrived at Abbey Caves Reserve in high spirits. The weather was cloudy, but there was no immediate sign of the heavy rain that had been predicted. The students were eager to start exploring, and the teachers began guiding them toward the entrance of Organ Cave, one of the largest and most impressive caves in the reserve.
The students, including Karan, were filled with excitement as they prepared to enter the cave. For many of them, it was their first time exploring a cave, and they were eager to see what lay inside. As the group made their way into Organ Cave, they were captivated by the beauty of the underground world. The cave's walls were lined with intricate rock formations, and the students marveled at the natural wonders around them. The teachers led the group through the main passage, explaining the geological processes that had formed the cave over thousands of years. The students listened intently, eager to learn and explore further. But as they ventured deeper into the cave, the weather outside began to change. Dark clouds gathered overhead, and the first drops of rain began to fall. The rain quickly intensified, turning into a torrential downpour. The streams around the cave, which had been calm when the group arrived, started to swell rapidly. Inside the cave, the students and teachers were unaware of the danger that was approaching. Suddenly, the water inside the cave began to rise. What had been a dry passage just moments before was now filling with water at an alarming rate. The students and teachers quickly realized that they were in a dangerous situation. Panic set in as the water continued to rise, and the group scrambled to find higher ground. The cave, which had seemed like a safe place to explore, was now turning into a trap. Karan, along with his classmates, tried to stay calm as they navigated the rising water. The teachers did their best to keep the group together, urging the students to move quickly and stay close. But the water was rising too fast. The current became stronger, making it difficult to maintain balance. The students, some of whom were not strong swimmers, struggled to keep their heads above water. As the group moved through the cave, the water level continued to rise, reaching their waists, then their chests, and finally their necks. The situation was dire. In the chaos, Karan lost his footing and was swept away by the powerful current. Despite the efforts of his classmates and teachers to reach him, the water was too strong. Karan was carried deeper into the cave, where the currents made it impossible for him to escape. The group, now realizing that one of their own was missing, was filled with fear and desperation. Outside the cave, a construction worker named Caleb Salisbury was going about his day, working on a nearby project. As the rain intensified, Caleb noticed the unusual amount of water accumulating around the site. He then saw a group of young boys running towards him, clearly distressed. The boys had managed to escape the cave and were frantically seeking help. Caleb, understanding the urgency of the situation, immediately stopped what he was doing and called emergency services. Caleb didn't hesitate to act. After making the call, he joined the boys and rushed to the entrance of the cave, where he saw one of the teachers inside struggling to rescue the remaining students.
Emergency responders arrived on the scene within minutes. They quickly assessed the situation and began efforts to rescue the trapped students. The conditions inside the cave were challenging. The rescue teams worked tirelessly, but the cave's narrow passages and the powerful current made their task extremely difficult. The teacher inside the cave managed to rescue several students, pulling them from the water and guiding them to safety, but when he realized that Kyron was still missing, he was devastated. The weight of the tragedy bore down on him, and he was left heartbroken and guilt-ridden. As news of the incident spread, search and rescue teams continued to look for Kyron. They used specialized equipment to comb through the cave and surrounding areas, hoping to find him. The search went on for hours, with the rescue teams refusing to give up, but as the day wore on, hope began to fade. After more than 6 hours of searching, the decision was made to pause the search for the night due to the dangerous conditions. The rescuers were exhausted, and the rising water made it too dangerous to continue. Later that night, the search resumed, and tragically, Kyron's lifeless body was found. He had been swept away by the floodwaters, and his young life was lost. A helicopter was used to recover his body and transport him from the site. The discovery of Kyron's body was a devastating blow to the community, and the loss was felt deeply by everyone involved. On September 9, 1990, Mark Healy checked into a YMCA hostel in Melbourne. He told his family he was heading out for a skiing trip to clear his mind, but in truth, Healy had a different plan. The plan that would end in tragedy. Healy had two loves in life, the thrill of adventure and the joy of teaching. Every chance he got, he was out exploring. Australia was his favorite destination, and he had embarked on countless expeditions across Tasmania and Western Australia. Whether he was skiing down snowy slopes, navigating through caves, or hiking along rugged trails, Healy lived for the excitement of the great outdoors. Over the years, he honed his skills and became quite the expert, always seeking the next adrenaline rush and the beauty of uncharted territories. But just as much as he loved his adventures, Healy was passionate about teaching. He often said that educating young minds was his true calling. His dedication to his students was evident in everything he did. He believed in the power of education and inspiring the next generation. So when the school where he taught announced a special excursion to encourage students to embrace adventure, Healy was over the moon. The cherry on top was when he was selected to lead the trip. It was the perfect blend of his two great loves, adventure and teaching. He couldn't have been more excited, not knowing the dark twist this journey would take. The students were told this trip wasn't for those with weak hearts. The itinerary included rock climbing, whitewater rafting, and cave exploration. Despite the stern warning, many students eagerly signed up. They were drawn to the thrill and the promise of a memorable experience. One of the places they planned to explore was the Mystery Creek Cave, nestled within Southwest National Park. Although ideal for beginner cavers, it was not without its risks. There were hidden dangers, and a lack of caution could turn a thrilling adventure into a deadly one. Nonetheless, with his extensive experience, Healy felt confident in his ability to lead the students safely through the cave. On the morning of July 2, 1990, 19 students eagerly gathered for the expedition. They were buzzing with excitement, chatting about the adventure that awaited them. 8 of them were particularly excited about the cave exploration. They had heard stories about the cave's beauty and were eager to see it for themselves. Knowing the potential risks, Healy enlisted the help of another teacher, Joanne, and a seasoned colleague, Danielle. He wanted to ensure that the students were well supervised and safe at all times. By noon, the group was on their way, ready for an adventure. Despite the gloomy, rainy weather, they were well prepared, with sturdy boots, helmets, and wetsuits, ensuring they could handle the challenges ahead. As they approached the entrance to Mystery Creek Cave, they met a man who had just exited. He was drenched and looked weary. He warned them that the cave was flooded up to his boots due to the heavy rain, and suggested they come back another day. He shared his concern about the rising water levels and the potential danger, but Healy, confident in his expert, decided to proceed. He believed he could guide the students through the cave safely.
He had faced challenging conditions before and trusted his skills and judgment. Inside the cave was even more breathtaking than they had imagined. The walls were adorned with glowworms, casting a magical, luminous ambiance. However, they soon encountered rising water levels. To cross safely, Healy demonstrated a clever technique he had learned from his many expeditions. They would form a human chain with the strongest students at each end and Healy in the middle where the water was deepest. Those not in the chain would hold onto it as they crossed. This method worked perfectly, and the students found it both effective and enjoyable, eager to use it again. By 4:30 p.m., they reached a narrow section known as the Matchbox Squeeze. This part of the cave was notoriously tight, requiring them to wriggle through to continue on their path. It was a challenge, but they were up for it. On the other side, they moved towards the cave entrance via the laundry chute. As they progressed, Healy noticed the sound of water was getting louder, indicating rising pressure. The noise of the flowing water echoed through the cave, creating an ominous soundtrack to their journey. Healy decided they needed to use the human chain technique again to cross safely. The students enthusiastically formed the chain, but this time the water was up to Healy's knees and the current was stronger. They began crossing, but the first student, a petite girl, almost fell due to the current. Healy caught her just in time, and she made it across safely.
His heart raced with concern, but he kept calm to avoid alarming the students. He knew that if he showed fear, it would only increase their anxiety. The next student started crossing. Encouraged by Healy and the others, they cheered her on, providing words of encouragement and support. Just as she was about to reach the other side, the current pulled her down. She screamed for help, and Healy knew he had to act quickly. Her friend and one of the teachers, Joanne, rushed to save her, but the current pulled them too. The situation was becoming increasingly dire. Healy realized he needed to get the remaining students to safety first. He couldn't afford to lose any more time. He led them out of the cave quickly, urging them to stay close and move swiftly. The rain had made the ground slippery, and they had to be careful with each step. Once the students were safe, Healy returned to search for the missing. 3 hours passed with no sign of them. Authorities arrived, finding Healy devastated. The 3 victims were later found, but it was too late. The cave claimed their lives. Despite the tragedy, Healy was hailed as a hero. People praised his efforts, acknowledging the bravery and dedication he had shown. He had done everything in his power to ensure the safety of the students, but Healy couldn't shake the guilt. He felt responsible, believing he could have done more to prevent the loss. The weight of the tragedy pressed heavily on him, haunting his every thought. 2 months later, unable to cope with the pain, Healy packed some gear and told his family he was going skiing. They wished him well, unaware of the turmoil he was facing. He checked into the AMK hostel in Melbourne. In a moment of despair, he climbed to the 10th floor and ended his life. The loss of Healy was a devastating blow to those who knew him. He had been a source of inspiration and strength, and his absence left a void that could never be filled.